Welcome to the Invoice, Approvals and Accruals Enterprise demonstration. The aim of this demonstration is to give you an overview of the additional features within the Enterprise version of Invoice, Approvals and Accruals, which is available on Dynamics GP version 10 and upwards. The main difference between the standard version of Invoice Approvals and the Enterprise one is that within the Enterprise you can create approval rules that automatically add approvers onto invoices as you save them onto GP. The approvers are added based on approval rules that you can create, and you can create those rules using fields within the transaction entry window. For example, the full GL code, the document amount, segments of the GL, items you've purchased, creditor name, and also if using project accounting, you can use many of the fields within project accounting, for example, the contract number of the project. There's no restriction on the number of rules you can create, and multiple rules can apply to one invoice. The automatic addition of approvers onto your invoices enables enhanced security and means that the GP users entering invoices do not need any knowledge of the approval structure within your organisation. So let's take a look at the software. We'll start by looking at the Approval Rule Setup window. This is where you create your approval rules and you decide who needs to approve an invoice if it conforms to that rule. So I shall select a basic rule for us to look at first. Using the document amount, here I've created a rule where any invoice over 500 will be sent to Sarah and John list ID for approval. So as soon as I enter an invoice onto GP and save it, if the document value is over 500, then it will be automatically sent to Sarah and John for approval. If we want to narrow down which invoices this rule relates to, we can add a second definition. So here, for example, I could select a document type, and I could say that needs to be equal to an invoice. So if a credit was put on the system for over 500, this rule would not apply. You can see how we can then define this even further by using rule definition 3 and 4. In this way, the invoices that this rule applies to are narrowed down. So you can create as many rules as you want, and each one can have up to 4 definitions. Each definition has to apply on that invoice for this particular list ID to be associated with it. If we take a look at the columns that you can create the rules based upon, here we're looking at a payables rule, and therefore these are the fields that we can use. So we have the full GL account code, the document amount, document type, segments of the GL, the vendor class and the vendor ID and name. If we now take a look at a purchase order processing invoice or a receivings transaction, select one of those. We can see here the series has changed to POP. If we now look at the column name and go into the lookup there, you can see we've got a lot more fields that we can select and make our rules based upon. Some of these are project accounting related, so we have things like project account segments as well as purchase account segments. We have project manager name and project number. We also have contract classes and cost categories. Here we have item number, where on a receivings transaction you select items. We can create rules based upon that. As you can see, there's a lot more fields here that you can use to create your rules upon. Again, you can have up to 4 rule definitions, and you can again have as many rules as you wish. Each time creating a rule and then saying which list ID you would like to associate to any transactions that are put onto GP that conform to that rule that you've created. Once you have created your rules, you've got a test button here which allows you to test out the rule to ensure that it's selecting the right invoices that you expect them to be picking up. So it will go through any transactions that you've got in batches, and it will say if this rule was activated on your system, which transactions it would apply to. that allows you to check to make sure that you're happy that the rule's been set up correctly. Once you set up your rules, you then go to Rule Enable and go into Payables or into POP and enable the rules that you've created. So now I've got these enabled, the box is ticked, and as soon as I start entering transactions into batches, they will automatically have approvers assigned. So we'll just do a quick test transaction and show you that in action. So we're going to Payables Transaction Entry, and we'll enter a quick test transaction for you today. As I'm sure you're aware, we don't use any alternative windows within GP. We just simply add functionality onto the standard windows that you're all used to using. Okay, so there's my test transaction. Now, originally, in the standard version of Invoice Approvals, your users would have to go into Approvals and add the approvers on manually that they wish to approve this invoice. Whereas now that I've got the Enterprise version working, I've got my rules set up, and I've enabled them on my system, when I go into Approvals, it's going to work out the approvers for me. So it's going to go through all my rules, it's going to see which ones apply, and there we are, it's automatically added the approval list ID, Sarah and John, to my transaction, based on the rule that I've got set up, saying that any invoice over 500 needs to go to Sarah and John. So that's been automatically assigned. I can save that, save my invoice, and go on adding my invoices, and then send them off for approval. So there we are, that's the main difference between the standard version of Invoice Approvals and the Enterprise one. I'd like to thank you for taking your time to view our demonstration today. I hope it was of interest and of use to you. If you do have any further questions regarding the Enterprise version, would like to have a trial of the product, or simply would like to discuss further how this could work for you and how it might benefit you, please feel free to contact us.